Hey everyone, this is DayTraderRockStar once again, and I'm just doing a review of last week's 10 for 1,000 watch list because it just instills the discipline and the focus and the methodology. I just want to go over everything. Just always look back at your trades, get an account of why things worked or why they didn't work. Always helps you, in the future trades. So we're going to just start it off. I'm going to run through this real fast. I put out these videos every week. To complement the 10 for 1,000 watch list, and this one goes out to the YouTube audience, and the 10 for 1,000 watch list goes out to the members of Day Trading Radio. So this is actually like kind of a review. This is the 10 for 1,000 watch list a week late, basically, and a look back exactly what you get and where the stock went to. So we start off with Altera, which was a kick-ass trade of week number. That was one of the kick-ass trades of the week last week, and again you could see that. Going into last week, we had this recognizable underlying trend line. Buy triggers 37.36, 37 to 36.80. We pulled right back down into that level. You can see it better on a 60-minute chart. Boom, came right down to that, and we bounced right off of it. Now, again, what's great about the watch list is it takes the risk out of the, it gives you the methodology, gives you the reasons why stocks are pulling back. That's the easy part. And a lot of people say, well, that should be the hard part. No, the hard part is actually figuring out when to take profits because the greed factor comes in. And then, we try to stick to the indicators to getting overbought and oversold. So, we're just going to really look at why these stocks worked or why they didn't work and not really look at the exit points today because these are still very active. The daily stochastics on Altera is still very good, and probably is going to continue to head up into this pattern. So this actually could end up being another trade this week. I didn't add it onto this week's watch list, but it's definitely there. And this video also goes out to the members. So just remember this one is still active and it does look good. It still looks very good. So ALXN was just a watch list. It wasn't a focus. It wasn't really on the watch list. It was just a focus list. I just want to review that one for a second. Not even going to review it, actually. ATVI was the watch list stock. Again, not a perfect setup. The entry was on the lower support line, oversold stochastics, multiple indicators, 60-minute chart. You could see exactly what we're looking at. Buy zone, 1170 to 1150. Basically, that lower trend line, it popped up here, and it continued to break out. It broke out of the trend line and then finally got a little overbought and pulled back, but another successful trade on Activision. Boeing, BA. Let's take a look at what we're looking at. Boeing. Boeing actually gapped down with the bigger industrial stocks on the day we had that flush last week. We had that flush last week, but it came right back. And one thing that's good about the Boeing is every so often you'll get a great stock that's setting up but might gap down. It doesn't mean that it falls out of the pattern. As long as the signal was there, it was a coil stochastic recognizable channel. Coil stochastic, which represented a high probability setup. So the high probability setup didn't go away because of the gap down. So you have to remember that. That's a key thing you have to remember. It doesn't go away because of the gap down. The gap down could be many different things that the reasons could be Boeing specific or maybe something else in the overall markets just gap things down, which should tell you that hey, this is a great level to entry. That's an active stock, and that's what you have to really look at as an active stock right there. So from that point on, really a big move up, got overbought and pulled back, and now pulling back down into an oversold level again on Boeing. CHK buy area watch 2365, pulled right back down to 2365, basically a little bit lower than that, which is fine. I mean, you're looking at a level 2350, as long as you got the multiple indicators, and you can see the reaction from that stock from this level. Underlying trend line, the entry level, the exit level, and everything working out fine on CHK. Sienna was an earnings play. Didn't take this into earnings, but you had a nice move up off the earnings. It was actually set up, even though the earnings on Sienna came in disappointing, because the setup was there, it did give you a good buy signal at that point, and then from that point, disappointing earnings, it actually gapped up and continued to move higher. So another good example of a stock that technically is set up, it doesn't really have to worry about the news not affecting the technicals, and actually the signal giving a buy signal here into the earnings. I know some people actually bought that into earnings and they actually got that gap up, so congratulations. And I'm just cruising through these real fast. Dover, again, another good situation, and we're still in Dover into this week. Kick-ass trade of last week. Again, the gap down because of the market gap down, but then look at the reversal. Now this stock is actively in a profit zone, and we're profitable on that trade, and looks embedded stochastics on the 60. The daily is really key here. Beautiful underlying trend line. Nice crossover on the stochastics. Continues to look good, and would continue to look for this one to move higher this week. So DOV continues to look great. It was a great entry into that gap down, or before it. It just sometimes you have to deal with the gaps in the market, and that's kind of the risk involved. You wake up one day, the futures are gapping down, stocks will gap down. Doesn't mean it's not set up. That setup was a very good, valid setup, and you could see from the reactionary bounce and the follow-through. That gap wasn't there. This would be the direction of the stock either way. So Dover, success. EA, again, another good setup. EA, entry 1620 to 1640. It pulled back to about $16. And from that point on, we broke out to the upside. Again, coil stochastics, downward channel, directional trade is going to be to the upside, and you can see going over the last 4 days the move up. And this one even continues to look good. Coil stochastics to the upside looks great too. So continue to watch for this one to move higher. Cruising right through it. FCX, which is actually on this week's watch list, double bounce. It's on this week's watch list. Take a look at the notes I had on this. Small scale and to start. Again, this one also gapped down. I was looking at the entry level at 41, but we ended up gapping down with the overall markets, and it seems to be holding here. So here's one that gapped down and didn't really move. I would say this one did not move according to the watch list. FCX. Johnson Johnson. Another one on this week's watch list. This one is still going sideways. Didn't move, didn't break down, didn't break higher. Still looks good, still valid. I do expect this one to break out to the upside in Johnson Johnson. PriceSmart, off the lower trend line. Nice entry. Didn't take this one. We followed it on the show. But you can actually see the buy zone was 61.86. Never really got down to that zone. The stochastics here, the downward channel, everything pointed. What's good about looking at this is every week I show you the same pattern over and over and over again. And, other than seeing that a random gap down in the market, even after the gap down, the directional trade of this pattern is to the upside. This is what you have to take every time. So, looking really good. Underlying trend line holding up. Downward channel is an indicator. Coil stochastics an indicator. Everything pointed to the upside, and you did see that upside move off of this. Vodafone, VOD, is on this week's watch list. This is one of my favorites. It had a nice buy area, 2680 level, which is right around here, and it bounced off of that up to about 27 and change. Not a big move. Then it gapped down, but came quickly oversold on the 60-minute. Gap back down into a low portion of this channel, and it is actually a kick-ass trade for this week. So this week I'm actually going to get active in Vodafone. Didn't take this trade last week, but this looks really good going into this week. And U.S. Steel, again, another very good pattern, which was setting up. The gap down gave us an opportunity, and then from that point on, it's rallied back up. We're going to look for this one to continue to rally outside this pattern. This is a downward channel. This one little day of consolidate. The gap down right here, and like a little 2 days of consolidation basically was just a stutter step in the stock. Basically, this was the setup, and from this point on, you're going to get a move up. The gap down didn't change the indicators or anything. It still was a buy here. So from that level on, you could see the move pushed right back up into the channel. Still looking for a breakout to the upside. This channel breaks to the upside. We're oversold on the 60. The daily just coming out of this, an underlying trend line here, very aggressive. Everything looks good on U.S. Steel. Definitely a focus stock for this week for the overall markets. And then ExxonMobil was the last stock, and this is really coming down into a good trend line. And I didn't put this on this week's watch list. You could easily go on this week's watch list, waiting for the daily to set up a little bit better. But this looks really textbook. It does look textbook right now in ExxonMobil. And again, I just rushed through this watch list because this review watch list, this week's official 10 for 1,000 watch list has the setups that are really golden. And looking forward to bringing that results to you next week. But if you want to get them beforehand, before the market moves, definitely stop by DayTraderRadio.com, DayTraderRadio.com, and check it out. And we'll be seeing you in the markets each and every day, starting broadcast about 8:30, 8 o'clock. We go right to the market close and into the earnings, and we'll talk to you Monday.